very much, Leo. Thanks for inviting me again. I don't want to talk too much about myself, so it'll be very quickly done. And when you say I spent so many years in academia, you of course say too many years in academia. Because sometimes you need to detrain yourself when you've been in the same place too long. But this is basically what I'm going to talk about. I've had to cut it down quite a bit, so I might go a little bit fast, and I also have, as you can hear, a little bit of a throat problem. So most of the first bit, the business marketing, I'll probably make most statements. If you want, I can get you the slides and some of the resources afterwards. I'll come back to that. But I really wanted to focus a bit more on the crowdfunding bit. Now with this here, as I said, about two decades in academia within healthcare. Had my own business since 1986. That was when I graduated. Then it's been business, academia, academia. And during that time, especially in academia, I've also been involved in a lot of projects. Some of which were purely academic, some which had some commercial link to it. So my strength is really in research, finding information that other people can't find. And one thing that's really irritated my colleagues in the past is when they spend time finding articles, and then they say, we've got to go for British Library. I said, yeah, it's in my office right over here. It takes me 3 minutes to find what they've been looking for half a day. Okay, that's sort of where I'm coming from. Maybe it's just I've got a crazy imagination. But most of the time, when I find people have problems, it's actually because they're slacking on the research side. And it's not because they're deliberately doing it, it's simply because they don't know what they don't know. And they need to connect all the different dots. I've also reconnected again with a group of people that I used to, well, first I met them I think 3 years ago, and now they moved on, moved to different ways, and now it's all coming together again. So even though they're the experts really in this area, I do part of it. Somebody else does something, and it comes back to what I mentioned earlier on with the Innocent brand. The reason why it's done so well is because they've got 3 people who get together who complement each other rather than overlap too much. Okay? So whenever you look at something like that, who can contribute what that we don't already have, and who can we work with, rather than, oh, it's this amount of money or whatever. It's about complementing each other's skills. Okay? Now with this, I'll also come back to some of what people call the ugly truth. And it's already been alluded to by some people. It's when you don't ask yourself questions because you've been doing the same thing too long, too often with the same people. So they think what you think, what everybody else thinks, you're an average of each other, and you're just not growing. You've got to get out of that comfort zone because that's where you grow. Okay? And that sometimes is difficult because you're too close to what you're doing. A classic, because I prefer to work with small business people rather than corporate. A classic is when somebody says, oh no, I'm the only one who can do it. When you could delegate it to your secretary, your receptionist, whoever. You've got to get over that hurdle. You don't have to do it all yourself. But you've got to focus on what you do really well. But you've got to ask yourself some critical questions, and a lot of people are not really willing to do that. My surprise is that people don't even want to ask their customers, what do they want? No, we know what they want, this is what we'll give them. It's like shove it down your throat. If any of you have seen G.I. Jane, the film, there's this little scene where G.I. Jane, if I want your opinion, I will give it to you. And then he slams the door in the face. That's not what you do to your customers. You don't ask them. They'll give you a much better idea than you think, because your inner reality is a little bit different from theirs. Okay? Also remember, if you're in crowdfunding or in business, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Bits and bits and bits. Plan. Do little by little, and you'll get there. But you've got to focus on the things that really matter. Not all the other bits you could be doing, but which really don't bring you any way forward. So it's the surest way to get forward, but not the quickest. Okay? With crowdfunding, you can actually do it very quickly, but you've got to really know what you're doing. And this is a different kind of crowdfunding that you're from what you're normally used to. Okay? So with this here, I'll be mentioning certain things about crowdfunding, why it's so important that you create a buzz. You can't always create a buzz around your business all the time, but you got to do something to make it seen out there, to get eyeballs on it. With the crowdfunding, because it's over a shorter period of time, you've really got to run it up with a bus. And that's very important. There are a number of critical steps. I'm also going to tell you, because there are so many of these, people tend to go to the wrong places sometimes. You know, if you go into a jewelry shop to buy perfume, that's not necessarily the best place. If you go to the wrong crowdfunding platform, why on earth would you go there when they don't even deal with this? Or they have certain different rules. Right? So you've got to be in the right place at the right time, prepare it. It's a classic for academia when people submit articles they submit their academic articles for a journal, and it comes back with a rejection slip. Why is that? You didn't even read the instructions. If you don't read the instructions, you don't know the rules, how on earth do you ever expect it to be submitted and accepted? And they don't have time to sit and give you feedback. So read the rules first, and the same applies over here. There are various things that have to be in place for it to become a success. And there are various things, especially in the fundamentals. A lot of the time in business, small business people, they drop into it because they've done this in the family, or they didn't know what else to do, and then they ended up on this shelf, and then they just keep doing this. And they don't necessarily feel that they belong there. They don't have all the fundamentals right, and they don't really like being there anyway. I've had a number of situations where students came and said to me, I know that now you ask me this question. See, the key thing with interviews is never to ask what they expect you to ask, because they will have rote learned it. So you ask the same question in an indirect way. So you've got to make them think. And the classic one is, I spent 2 years in this degree, I dropped out, and now I'm going to start this one here. And now you're going to think, I don't know what I'm doing. He said, no, you just made an expensive mistake, and you're willing to admit it. That's a benefit. Rather than telling me some crap that I know that you just learned from reading it in a book. At least you're honest. So use it as a stepping stone. But what I'll tell you is that most of what you've learned about business is probably wrong. And I know it's going to go against a few, at least 2 people in this room, because either just out of college or university or working in it, but I'll come back to why you might want to challenge me on it. The other one, with the crowdfunding, people read about this in the news and elsewhere. They think, they make all this money. There's money because of what they've done. It looks so easy. It's simple. It's not easy, because there's a complex series of things behind it. Okay? You can't just go in and do it necessarily on your own. If any of you have started a website, you've never done it before, and all the things that you need to do, you often get pretty down sooner or later, unless you get some help. Now, most people, again, passionate about what they do, but it's not always going to make it a successful business. It takes more than that. You can slave away all the hours of the day, and it doesn't necessarily make you happy. Oh, I'll just work a bit harder. Yeah, when? You still don't get any sleep. So there's something that's not quite matched up with you. Coming back to the disc personalities, that would have been a better way if you started out with that. There's similar things with learning styles. Some are more visual, some are more acoustic, some are more kinesthetic. It depends. I've seen very few, I think I can probably count them on 2 hands, of all the people I've interviewed coming into university. There are very few who actually spent the money going to the States or going online or buying something off the net to find out what they were actually good at. Everybody else, oh, I think I want to do this, or my father says that, or my mother, whatever. Can you imagine if more people who went for these auditions for song contests in front of Simon Cowell and others, if they actually had some people other than their parents tell them that they were good at it, like go for an audition, and we didn't have to see all that embarrassment sometimes. I don't know how they get through something. The same applies to Dragon's Den. I've had colleagues who have actually been on Dragon's Den in Denmark. It was hugely embarrassing. So, whatever it is, get objective, get impartial advice, even if you have to pay for it. And then say, okay, if they tell me this is what I'm good at because of this and this and this and this, maybe there's something about it. It's not just my mother who thinks I'm the greatest in sliced bread and whatnot, because they're just going to try to please you. If you have a big dream, follow it, do whatever it takes. When it comes to crowdfunding, if I say I need £10,000, how are you going to support it? It's not for a new sports car, but it's something worth it. How are you going to support it? Some of those which are 10,000, they do well, they meet their goals, and they go a bit over, and some don't. What if I said 50,000? It's more serious. If I say 500,000, am I super ambitious or is it doable? Now here's the point, from 500 to 5 million. You think the effort I have to put in is going to be huge. Well, it's going to be huge anyway up here. But the difference between this one and that one, in terms of effort put in terms of the things that have to be in place, is not much different. So why do you set 500 when you can do 5 million? Okay? What people don't understand is that it is not the end result. It is the starting point. That's why you always set it in such a way low that you can meet it within the first couple of days. And then the rest of it is going to be played for the next 30 days. Because you can scale up a campaign. It's not one campaign finished. If you go on Kickstarter, you can go and go and go. And those who've done really, really well, they've been doing it for years. Because they just kept going, they kept the buzz going. I mean, so never think of it as one project, one number, okay? Sorry, I missed that one. The other thing is, know what your internal and external reality is. In other words, what you think about your business is not necessarily what somebody else thinks. Go and ask them. If there's a mismatch between these two, maybe that's why sometimes they don't buy from you again, and you don't know why, because you think you're still great. But they don't think so, because your customer service sucks. Okay? There could be any number of reasons. Go and ask them. It's a lot better than going around in the unknown. Okay? The same with the campaigns. You may think one thing about your campaign, get some other people to comment on it, but here it's more important that you constantly have that buzz about the campaign. So you need to keep telling people about it, not shoving it down their throat, but just informing them. And that is what it has in common with the marketing. Because the old style marketing is really dead. That's the tactical marketing, which I'll come back to. But you must have the facts. You must concentrate on those things which matter the most. There are lots and lots of things people can do about their website. But which ones are the ones that get them the traffic and the conversion, so people actually buy from their website if that's what they have. Okay? Otherwise, it's what we call hits. Oh, we have 50,000 hits on our website. So that's great. How many products have you sold? Well, 5. 50,000 people, 5 people bought. The conversion rate is appalling. That's why we say hits is how idiots track success. These are window lookers. They don't come into the shop. They just look. That's why hits on its own doesn't matter. You can have a lot of traffic, but if nobody converts, in other words, buys, it's not going to do anything good for your business. Okay? Concentrate on which things are the important bits, and that's Pareto's or rule 80-20. 20% of the effort or 20% of your customers will bring 80% of the revenue in. Okay? Yes, I could do this and this and this as well, but it's not going to matter. You need to know which things matter and concentrate on that. And that can sometimes be difficult for a small business person. Now they think, oh, well, I'm still missing out on this. Oh, they say I've got to have a website, they say I've got to be on Facebook, they say I've got to be on Twitter and everything. Well, some people, for your business, just never go to Facebook, so why would you spend all your time on it? Be present, do something now and again, but don't spend all your time on it if you get most of them from LinkedIn. Okay? So find out where they come from, rather than just go out there and try to do a gunshot approach where you hit everything. So ask yourself some questions. this here is pretty key. This comes back to some of the research I mentioned. These questions people don't want to ask themselves. So get somebody else to do it for you. You can use the MIL rule, or the MIL technique. What's that? MIL, mother-in-law. She will tell you if it sucks. Okay? Your mother won't, but your mother-in-law will. So go and ask her. If she can understand it, anyone can understand it. If she thinks this is crap, take my word for it, it's probably crap, and go and do it again. Okay? But don't just go on and on and on doing the same thing. With this here, in terms of research, if you, I asked this previously of someone, who are your best customers? You need to know where they come from, how old they are, male, female, their psychographics as well as demographics. What are they thinking? What are they buying? What are they interested in? Facebook, when you set up ads, they can narrow it down very significantly and give you a very good idea of what number of people in this area are of this kind, have these interests, etc. If you then combine that search term, those search terms that you use in Facebook ads, with a name like Kickstarter, which is one of the crowdfunding platforms, then you'll have people who are interested in Facebook doing certain things who are also interested in Kickstarter. But what happens if you also combine that with a word like TED or TEDMed, which if you can find them on YouTube, these are like technology and education on medical equipment, for example. If you put those three together, maybe you started off with 5 million people in Facebook, combine it with Kickstarter, you're down to 1.5 million, and then combine it with one of these, and then you're down to 700,000. Oh, but they're all gone. No, what you have now done is super targeted these people. And that means you're now dealing with the junkies on the crowdfunding platform. They're the ones who will buy this thing that you have, because they are out there looking, they're interested. But you need to know what they're interested in first, and that's why with the crowdfunding, a different kind that you're normally used to, you can find out what they're interested in before you even have the product produced. You just need one prototype of it. Create some videos, etc., and then you can actually do it very well, have success with that. One of the things is, again, get rid of your own internal reality, your own prejudice. McClellan found out in the 50s that people who are an average, they are an average of whoever they spend most time with. They probably also earn an average of what these people earn. In other words, if you need to grow, get out of your comfort zone, find different people to be with. It doesn't mean discard all your friendships, but it means maybe keep it on hold for a while and then find some new friends who are better at whatever than you are, so you can grow. The other one is the Stanley and Danko, the Millionaire Next Door, you might have heard of. When the academics came out and they sort of presented all this fancy gourmet food, expensive wine, and these millionaires felt very uncomfortable. And this was their perception. Well, millionaires, they behave like this. They never bothered to ask them until they saw these responses, and they went, oh, he's better at a sandwich and a beer. He doesn't like the foie gras or the French wine or whatever. No, they felt very uncomfortable with it. So again, get an idea from your customers. What is it they want? What is it they're interested in, rather than your own ideas. There's a reason why they're where they are, and that's because they think differently, take different actions. I'll come back to some of that a little bit later. They have different activities and different ideas about certain things that you and I think about. The other thing, apart from facts, is emotions. What is it that makes people tick? If it's not something that excites them, why would they even get interested or be bothered? You know, this old idea where I've got to work harder instead of smarter, etc. It's just not gonna help. This is old style thinking. It doesn't work very well. Academic fundraising, a classic one. Oh, we got to get some funds. Yeah, have you any idea how much time you spend on paperwork just to get 50,000? It's ridiculous. And then when you get it, guess what? We need 20% of it. We need some percentage of it. So you never get the full amount anyway. because this department or that department needs something. So you're going to work hard to get a lot less. The difference in thinking from, shall we say, normal people, from somebody like Richard Branson is, if you had a group of people and they had to put a new roof on a church or whatever, guaranteed some will say, well, we can't really afford it. Or they'll start out saying, what's this going to cost? That's a totally different mindset from somebody like Richard Branson, who would say, who do we need on the team? Get this project up and running, and then we'll find out how we finance it. But we've got to get people interested in it first. It's totally different. I mentioned it earlier, so another one here in the group. If you ask somebody for a referral, you don't say to them, do you know anybody who can refer some business to me? So, what do you think the answer is going to be? No. Path of least resistance. No. Instead, if you ask, who do you know who has got this kind of problem that I can help them with? Guaranteed, you'll know at least 4 or 5. It totally changes it when you change the question. Okay? But most people, they ask the first way around. So be careful with your own beliefs. Michael Gerber's book, if you haven't read it, it's a good idea. Why things go wrong in business. It's really coming back to the Richard Branson example with who asks what kind of questions. The technician asks these kind of questions in business. He may be a good computer programmer, but he's lousy at running a business, so therefore you might as well have somebody else in. I've got people in my family where they're running a business. It's a bunch of academics, professors in physics, engineers, chemical engineers and whatnot, running a company on fuel cells. And for years, they all wanted to be the boss, okay? But could never make up their mind. And all these people were together deciding on where the business is going to go. Not until they hired somebody who had actually got commercial experience from a big pharmaceutical company. And now they're at least progressing. But I said to them at the time, why on earth don't you just hire a professional board, because you're getting nowhere. Right? You just can't make up your mind about anything. And everybody wants to be the chief. Right? Success mindset, etc. You can read it on the slides if you want them. But basically, what I'm alluding to is that what you've learned or been doing perhaps for years is tactical marketing. Let's throw some advertising at it and there'll be somebody who comes in. Yeah, there's always going to be somebody who sees it, but it's not working very well. Because in those days, when you didn't have the internet, guess who had all the information? The person who was selling whatever you were trying to buy. So he was the only person you could get the information from, and guaranteed most of them will sell it to you. Nowadays, you go on the internet, you find this and this and this information. It's several steps where you need information before you make up your mind. That means the power is on the consumer, not the person who sits with the stuff. And that's the difference. Tactical marketing was the old style, strategic marketing is what works today. I still hear people from business schools where they say, oh, you'll find something people need and sell it to them. No. Who cares? They don't really want what they need. They want what they want. And even if the economy is down, they will still find the money to get it. If you take tennis players and golf players, tennis players are stingy. They will not spend on extra equipment. They may be good at the game, but they will not spend extra. Go for the golfers. They have this mentality that I've got to have the latest of this and that, and even if they've got good golf clubs, they'll still go and buy a new set if something else comes up. So you have a much better market. But you've got to know the mentality of those people. So strategic, it's step by step, it's about the content, hitting their hot buttons, evoking their emotions, the copywriting, the words you use. This one relates to, I can't get it on here, but if you look up German Coast Guard, then you'll find this video. About this German Coast Guard, a young guy who's just been inducted in about 3.5 minutes on how to respond when there's a Mayday call. And then at the end of it, it comes out with his language is pretty poor in English. So what are you thinking about? He says, when actually they say, oh, we're thinking. And what they're saying is, learn English. Basically, know your lingo when you're writing. Your message that goes out to your customers is so important. And even if you write it very well, it doesn't give the full message because you don't get all the body language, non-verbal communication and whatnot. If you just keep doing this here, this is easy. That's like the just doing bits, tasks. But it doesn't necessarily work as well anymore as this does. Okay? So you need to be aware that to get to know you, like you, etc., trust you, people need much more exposure. Procter & Gamble did a study some years ago and they found out that with all this television advertising, they now needed to show it about 8,000 times just to get a good response. In the past, if they're talking to you and I, and it's emails, then they need about 7 to 12 exposures before they will respond if you offer them something. Okay?